Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Sounder at Heart of Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart podcast
say, is that the
network.
translation? Or?
No, that's not the translation. It's Monday. We are just finishing up with a hot day in Seattle at Seattle Stadium Lumen Field. And I'm here with Jeff Rueter and Tim Foss. How are you guys doing?
We're good. I appreciated my walk up to field as it is when you're at the exterior of the stadium. Field. Just so good.
Yeah, a little sweaty, but better for the day we've had so far.
Exactly. So, of course, Jeff is joining us from The Guardian.
Yes, that is the one.
And Tim, you know well by this point. But we just finished the first ever World Cup match in Seattle. I was talking to Seattle Times beat reporter, World Cup beat reporter, I guess we'll call him, Tim Booth. And he asked me if it was fair to call this the biggest soccer match in Seattle history. And I said, yeah, I think that's fair. I think the question is this the biggest sporting event to have ever been held in Seattle? And I think that might be a pretty fair case. And now this is going to be eclipsed several times.
Yes.
In the next few weeks. But for today, when we're recording this, I think this is certainly the biggest worldwide audience the Seattle sporting event has ever had.
I genuinely can't think of a larger sporting event that's happened in Seattle. I think
F1 hasn't. I guess F1 doesn't matter.
I mean, we've had MLS Cups.
I know. I was like, is this bigger than MLS Cup? Yes.
Yes.
Is it bigger than CONCACAF Champions League?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it bigger than Leagues Cup? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. After some hesitation.
Yeah.
No Messi for this one, but we did have Mo Salah.
And Kevin De Bruyne. And
Messi's never won a Premier League title. So both of those guys have. I think, for star power, for crowd size, global impact of the game, I think very fair to call this the biggest sporting event in Seattle history.
Yeah, it's really down to this or Seattle Dragons games in the XFL. No, I mean, it was fantastic, right? Like just the spectacle of it lived up to it, right? I think that there was a really good crowd at this one. There's something that's actually, it was a little eerie because they're both like red and white colorways. So neither of these teams like obviously stood out in the crowd where you didn't really know before the opening whistle what direction it was going to skew. But it was really credibly, I would say almost more loudly Egyptian than Belgian. But then again, in the press box confines of the plexiglass, who can even tell?
Yeah, so I originally had the same thought. And I thought, oh, this is actually an Egypt crowd until Belgium scored. And then Belgium scored. And I was like, oh, there are a lot of Belgian fans
And to be fair, it was actually just before when Lukaku came on. That's when it was like, oh, they're the Belgian fans. And maybe that makes sense. They were down 1-0 until.
But they also weren't. I mean, there was a constant din coming out of the Egyptian half. And I don't know if there was a comparable concentration of Belgian fans anywhere. Whereas the Egyptian fans had a little bit more organization and they were more constant. But it was a good mix. It was a good atmosphere. You know, I went walking around Pioneer Square after the game and I ran into like an Egyptian after party that looked like it was having a lot of, I mean, the Egyptians look like they're having a lot of fun. Maybe I just missed all the Belgian stuff because I guess they were on the other side of the stadium. And so maybe if I'd gone towards Victory Hall, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Then maybe I would have run into the Belgian fans. But the Egyptian fans came out and were really impressive.
I think there also is the element of, from what I could tell in the stadium, where there was a concentration of Egyptian fans was sort of where you would expect them, based on going to Sounders games where supporters groups end up. And it seemed like the largest consolidated group of Belgian fans was sort of on the west side of the stadium and
southwest side,
one little section. But the Egyptian fans seemed much more coordinated and orchestrated in a lot of the noise they were generating. We also may be influenced here a little bit by the Egyptian media in the press box, who,
oh my God,
were having the time of their lives. It seemed like, which, you know, I think we're very accustomed to a particular sort of press box environment.
Yeah.
And it is always fun to get some of those other flavors happening.
Jeff, I feel like you must have something to say about this because you texted me during the game and said, it's a little much, right? And I said, well, in fairness, someone did just faint over here. So that might be some of the chaos, but it was a lot. There was a lot of open cheering, I would say.
In the second half, from the kickoff of the second half to the hydration break, I would say there was like a constant running dialogue on my half of the press box of the Egyptian media just kind of talking about the game in front of them, cheering, groaning when things wouldn't happen, then talking about what position. Because like it's one of those where it's like I don't speak the language, but I recognize the names, right?
Yeah.
And so whenever they would start talking about the players and who was it that had the own goal and should he be playing, I'm assuming was the following conversation. But like it's one of those things where it's like international games you're used to with MLS, right? You're used to the decorum within MLS. There isn't that same sort of like my heart can't be contained right now by the mute button. So like
I'm just letting it flow.
Exactly. And it's just like you have to kind of respect like this is a country that has not performed very well historically at World Cups. They've never won a game at a World Cup, and they were, 3/4 of the way to it, 2/3 of the way to it until they didn't, but they still got a result. And so I would imagine, again, that they'll be happier about this than Belgium, but Belgium will have some relief that they didn't drop 3 points to start the group.
It would only be fair, because I did bring it up, to note that the Belgian media, although less visible, did give as good as they got when Belgium got their goal as well.
Yeah.
Just to be impartial on that front.
Yeah.
Neither journalist press corps, I should say, was exactly American in their decorum of press box etiquette. And hey, to be fair, at the start of every Sounders game, they play a warning or a message that says, please don't cheer in the press box. They don't do that in FIFA competition. So I don't know. Maybe it's us.
Maybe though. I will say that having sat next to one of my British colleagues at the U.S. Paraguay game, they were even more shocked at like one audible gasp at the first own goal. There was like one person in the corner who had kind of cheered a little, and they were just like, oh, we would frown on that. I don't personally mind, but I think that. And so I cannot imagine what he would have been doing at this game.
I probably shouldn't be going into too many British press boxes then.
We do have a tendency to, if not cheer, at least ooh and ah.
Ooh and ah.
Oohs and ahs are fine.
We're not above. I'll tell you, the Sounders press box is not exactly quiet.
Yeah. I'll do like sharp gusts of exhale sometimes, like especially at the US game, right? Like if there's a near miss, if there's a tough tackle where it looks like Tyler Adams has another injury. We're humans. We will react in some way, but there's like that constant cheering, there was actual applause at one point in the press box. Very strange.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was.
This segment will do really well with about 5 listeners.
No, I think people like the inside.
Okay.
The inside baseball, as it were.
Yeah.
But it was honestly kind of a dream day for Seattle. And if you could imagine a World Cup coming to Seattle, I don't know that you could, this is cliche, but I don't know that you could script it better than what it was. A perfect day. I mean, it was maybe a little hot, but it was 80-ish degrees, which wasn't as hot as, I don't think it was as hot as the forecast had suggested.
I think it said it would get up to 89, and I clocked it at kickoff at 85.
Okay.
So not quite there.
Yeah. But it was a beautiful day out. There was a great crowd, a crowd that got there. I pulled in to Pioneer Square maybe around 9:30 or 9:45, and there was just like a nice din of people. I saw people flooding out of the light rail station, and I think it was exactly what you want it to be. There was pop-ups everywhere. There were people milling around. I love the pedestrian zone out
that was
Pioneer
great.
Square.
Yeah.
So, in case you don't know, essentially from Lumen Field or from T-Mobile all the way to Yesler, there is essentially, 5-ish blocks wide of pedestrian zone that goes all the way through Pioneer Square. And it allowed for people to, I think this is something, honestly, that Seattle should consider doing on all match days.
I loved it. It was incredible. I mean, it was safe, first of all, which is great because I transported by scooter, and it was very easy to get through. Peace of mind as you're trying to figure out which turn, where am I supposed to park these things anymore. But also,
and they wouldn't let you park them anywhere. They wanted you to park them in specific spots.
Yes. So heads up, if you're booking that scooter, look where the parking zones are, because you will set it down and they'll say no, and you'll be very frustrated.
Yes, and I definitely spent a couple extra bucks looking for a parking spot.
Yeah. That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
It was, it's a real festival atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think being able to walk around and there just almost everywhere you looked in the streets, especially within 2 blocks in either direction of the stadium, there were just group after group of people kicking a ball around. Like, it's such a cool vibe around the stadium for games. It really makes you wish it was like this much more often than just this one time.
Right.
Do they always sell street hot dogs at 8:30 in the morning? Or is that a World Cup special?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that we've had a lot of opportunities to have 8:30 a.m. No, I would say even when they have an early kickoff, 1 o'clock would be normally, I would say, the earliest kickoff we'd have here.
Yeah.
And I bet you those street vendors are not set up until 10 at the earliest.
That makes sense.
More like 11.
It was wild showing up to a stadium. Like, I just had like the first half of my iced coffee before hopping on the scooter, and all of a sudden it's hot dog time.
People were smashing cream cheese and onion hot dogs.
Yeah, it was wild. Only at a World Cup.
The appropriate time to start drinking and eating hot dogs definitely shifts dramatically during a World Cup, regardless of what time zone it's happening in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the other things I was pleased by was I was sort of expecting the pedestrian zone to be really sanitized in a FIFA kind of branded way.
Oh, sure.
And it was not. It was much more of an organic feel. Like, there was still the normal, especially outside the stadium, like across the street from the stadium. Those were all the normal vendors. And then, and honestly, all the food trucks that were set up were all the kind of local businesses and vendors that you would normally see. Maybe some food trucks I didn't quite recognize, but they were all like obviously legit food trucks. Now, and there are clearly some kind of FIFA zones within that.
Yeah.
But it felt much more organic than I had assumed it might. Like, I felt like it might look like a FIFA land.
Yes.
And that's not what it was.
My favorite little corner of that part was the designated protester zone, where if you had gripes, there was like an orange, like fenced in pen that you could go like the town square and get shamed, but get your message across. And there was no one set up at 8:30 because I think the hot dogs were already cooking. So there was nothing left to protest.
Right.
But if there hadn't been those Frankfurters. I really wonder what the stump speech would have been.
Well, you know what was funny? There was I believe a New York Times story talking about how excited the street preachers were about having the World Cup come to town because they could finally spread their hateful rhetoric.
It's so expensive to take hate on a plane, right?
Exactly.
Like, but if you can bring these countries to you,
right? All these foreigners would come to them so they could spread their ridiculous messages. And I don't know where they were because I did not see them. I assume they were somewhere because
they were out at 8:30. I can tell you that
They were certainly set up by the time I got there.
Oh, okay. Where were? So I'm assuming over on the south end,
just sort of in their same usual spot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was very disappointed to not run into them.
You chose the proper paths to get where you were going.
Exactly. Though they would argue it's the improper path, and there's only one proper path. So
for sure,
bear in mind.
Yeah, I also, so when I came in, I rode a scooter from North Seattle, and I went past the look, Uruguay. Just for what it's worth, Uruguay just scored. They have salvaged potentially a rare point for South America in this tournament.
Wow.
But I don't want to become distracted by that. I came down the waterfront, and it was so cool to see the Egyptian fans gathering at the Great Wheel, and just the joy in the faces of the fans as they sort of approached. And it was like, my people. And I have to assume that a lot of these are expats living in the United States, because it just felt like they were giving very much American kind of like, these are my people vibes.
Yeah.
And it just was kind of, and then I happened to catch them as they were doing their march to the match. And they were waving this huge Egyptian flag and they were doing their chants. And it did really remind me of, this is why I wanted the World Cup to come here. And that I wanted this experience of seeing people from other nations and see them express themselves and have fun and enjoy our city, but also bring their own flavor to it. And I love that at the end of the game, like Belgian and Egyptian fans seem to be freely mingling.
Helps when it's a draw. Helps when they both scored.
Exactly. And and we saw like so many other different jerseys. A lot of Liverpool, probably with the most prominent non-partisan in this game. But there are definitely some, especially Bruce Lee kits for the Sounders, because they would blend right in.
That's right.
I did see one guy bold enough to wear a Timbers jersey, which felt a little aggressive.
That's rough.
But
that's rough. Just in general, that's a tough choice.
That's a tough choice.
Difficult guy to be. I think.
Like I'm gonna wear my Timbers jersey to the Belgian Egypt game in Seattle.
Have they ever had a Belgian or Egypt international?
I don't.
Probably not.
No,
I don't expect you to.
I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge.
I would be shocked if they have someone of Belgian or Egyptian connections ever in their historic roster.
I think it helps for the attendance for this game that both teams have very high profile players. Sure. And it is, if you're a soccer fan in the Northwest broadly, maybe US Australia is going to be a little rich for your blood.
Yeah.
This is the next big down. Game.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I ran into guest of the pod, Alex Caulfield, in the mixed zone and was chatting with him a little bit. And it does bring to mind the conversation the two of you had, Jeremiah, about just the size of the soccer fan base in the US that extends well beyond Sounders fans and encompasses all of these people who just love the sport, and they may not be tapped into their local MLS or USL or whatever team, but they love the game. They might love their national team or a particular Premier League team. I saw lots of other Premier League jerseys as well.
Yeah.
And given the opportunity to come see the big show in their town or close to their town, like it's a tough thing to pass up.
And we don't know where Mo Salah is going, but there is a chance that's the final competitive matchup between him and Kevin De Bruyne. And that seems a massive draw. Now, he could go to Milan. That is one of the many rumored clubs for Salah right now. There's no clarity. after that game about where he will be. I think that's a decision that's going to be kicked to whenever Egypt is eliminated from the tournament, which now seems, I mean, to be fair, if they play like this against New Zealand and Iran, they'll probably advance too. So we might be waiting a little bit longer on Salah news, and that's fine.
Yeah, I feel like I would guess that these, based on today, those feel like the two favorites.
I think so.
The two most likely teams to advance. And I mean, Egypt, talking about the game a little bit, Egypt, especially in the first half, did not look like they were interested in giving an inch.
Yeah.
They
fearless.
Yeah, they scored first. I thought they were the deserved leaders. And they didn't, I wouldn't say they bossed the game, but they did not play scared. They didn't play timid. They played like a team that believed in their talent.
They played like they also watched Belgium's March friendly against the US closely, where they skewed a lot towards the left because of Jeremy Doku, and he can play on either side, but they really liked the matchup on the right on that day. It was Tim Weah starting at right back. And so you would notice that Egypt was always, as soon as the ball would even start to be passed to Jeremy Doku, they had two players on him, and it made it incredibly difficult. Now, they did get away with, I think, a pretty obvious yellow card early on, and I think where someone kind of does grabs Doku's leg from behind in between their legs with a sliding tackle, and that was allowed to go. And I think that the argument would probably be he wouldn't have gotten to the ball, but it did set a tone that generally the physicality was going to be upped, and I appreciated that personally. Both teams were really testing how much they could get away with, and there were a couple of yellow cards within consecutive minutes, but it felt like a game that Egypt looked at and said, this is our statement, this is how we actually can get control of the group. Because I think that in any other World Cup, Iran would be neck and neck with them usually on talent, but they couldn't bring all their best players given current events, and now they arrive at this kind of shorthanded. So
while Egypt was leading, they also had a couple of really good looks that, either shots were blocked or Courtois had a good save on a Mo Salah header that looked like the way Salah took the header sort of caught him off guard, but he recovered well and swatted it away. And then, however you want to look at it, the cooling break in the second half was sort of where things shifted.
Yeah. And it feels, that's one of the things that the consistent things that I've noticed about this tournament is that the cooling breaks have been pretty influential.
Yeah.
Either the plays that lead right into it or the plays that come right out of it oftentimes feel like they are some of the biggest plays. There's also been a weird number of games that where goals have been scored right at the last kick.
Yeah.
I want to say there's been at least 3 or 4
I think
goals
so
on the last kick of a half or the game.
Yeah.
Including the Sweden game, which was wild.
Yeah, I don't think they needed that one more kick, but goal difference disagrees. Yeah. But I'm with you. I mean, even Rudy Garcia in his post-match via translation was saying, I don't even think of them as cooling breaks. They're coaching breaks, right? Because players can run to the sideline and grab water if there's time. And obviously it's harder if you're a central midfielder or goalkeeper or whatever, but you have your own bottle there, strikers then. But they are treating them as if it's okay, let's go in X's and O's, Poch in his laptop, or just saying hey, here's your weakness. After the first half, it was Belgium flipping what side Jeremy Doku was on so that he could be on the relatively weaker half of Egypt's defense, and he had a little bit more success with that. So they're I would say too influential. I'm coming down on this alongside a lot of people, but not for the commercial reasons, which I already hated from jump. That was the one that just felt too cynical. But even from how does this change the game? It's not credible. It's a 4-quarter sport now suddenly.
Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right. In the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features Features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now. Nos Arietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Yeah, I actually found myself thinking a lot about that, how they are effectively, like you said, it's like a 4-quarter system, because it's a 3-minute break where every coach who has any brain is going to use that. That's been the whole, been one of the things about soccer for so long, is that it's a game played by you. All you can do is sort of put your chess pieces on the board, and then you sort of have to let it play out. Yeah. And that's not how it is anymore.
No. But like, I miss it already, right? There's a part of it where it's like, on the one hand, you're maybe getting some of those moments where it's like, the cooling break happens, Lukaku comes on, and then they already know his first movement pattern, and it comes off for the equalizing own goal, right? And you look at that and you kind of appreciate it for what it is. I think that there was a similar moment in the U.S. game in the second half, if I remember right. But does it feel like the experience we're used to with this sport? No, not at all, right? And it's gonna be very interesting to see how history remembers that evolution if cooling breaks aren't maintained for 2030, though granted they'll be in some warm countries even closer to the equator, right?
It just feels like if FIFA has an excuse to inject commercials into the game, that they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a great excuse to do it. And hey, credit to Telemundo though. They're actually treating this as a opportunity to like see what's going on the field.
Smart.
I don't know that will survive beyond this year. It's like, it seems like one of those things where it's like, well, we didn't feel like selling this.
Unfortunately, your execs feel like you left money on the table more than it's like really good coverage. I'm glad you did that analysis of the first 22.
Anything else from this tournament that jumps out at you, Tim?
I think it is interesting to see a couple things we've sort of talked about, but with, we've mentioned off mic that as of recording, South America has yet to win a game. We're seeing teams get maybe what would seem like outsized performances from domestic players. That one of the talking points around this game in particular was the volume of Egyptian players based in Egypt. And so often, especially in US soccer circles, the conversation is about getting more players to Europe. That's the conversation around El Tri. It is for any team not in Europe. The focus is getting your players to Europe because that's where good players happen.
And honestly, any country outside of maybe Italy and England, getting them to somewhere else.
Yeah, very true. But I think to your point too, like maybe that is a knock-on effect of the Club World Cup that I didn't appreciate until starting to see some of these results, where you have, for example, someone at my hotel was rocking in their Al-Ahly jersey, right? And I remembered watching them in that opening game against Miami, and the prize pool can then get reinvested across the league in theory, where then if they're going to say, let's go hoover up, Bayern Munich style, let's go get the best players from our rivals to weaken them while strengthening ourselves and make them regenerate, right? If that's going to become kind of the economy that's created from these ludicrous prize purses just for showing up,
Right.
like it will impact the breakdown of like domestic and foreign players at a World Cup over time. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it is a good thing to like kind of, and this is actually, I can guarantee you FIFA does want to take the epicenter of the sport away from UEFA if it can and spread it, or even just weaken like that instant, because it always has been this like credible foil to it, whether it's Seraphin or predecessors. So it won't surprise me if that is one of the knock-on effects. And I think that you're absolutely right, Tim. Like I think that we have to view it in a very different light now, because there's just so much that's changed over the last 5-10 years. About how the sport is operated because of FIFA, that FIFA competitions don't look like we remember them to look.
And I think, the cooling breaks shift some of how this plays out on the field with the ability to do additional coaching. But so often one of the issues with international football is that it's not a club team. You can't coach a team in the same way. It is harder when you have, more of a diaspora situation with your players to create a cohesive and consistent identity, a consistent playing style. But as we saw in this game, Egypt pulls a ton of its players from, in particular, Al Ahly and Zamalek, and I think there's some Pyramids FC players.
Sure.
But rather than, at least in this particular game, it being a very Mo Salah centric team with a bunch of dudes there to allow Mo Salah to
the backup
shine.
Singers. Yeah.
You sprinkle in Mo Salah, Omar Marmoush, and they are added flavor to this very solid defense first, but cohesive approach to the game that is able to, Belgium, for all its golden generation, has never really been a powerhouse, but it is still a much more fancied team by most people than Egypt. And the two sides went toe to toe and only narrowly came out with a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Egyptian coach talked a lot about in his presser was this sort of I don't have all the context for this, but it did seem like he was talking about the professionalization sort of the Egyptian national team. And here he was saying, like, look, we have some great players. We've had great players over the years, but we've never really had a great national team, at least at the World Cup level. And how there's no reason we shouldn't be a great national team. We have 110 million people. You compare the size of Egypt to Belgium, and it's essentially 10 times as large. And how, we should be using all the modern coaching practices. We should be breaking down tactics. We should be looking at film. We should be expecting you guys to come in for the full camp and not just show up on game day. And sort of talking about the professionalization of this. And I got to say that it looked like a serious national team. It did not look like a bunch of individuals playing for themselves.
Yeah, and that wasn't always the case with like either the last World Cup or AFCON, right? Like where that is very much most a lot of the Supremes, right? Where it's not quite as functional. I think that dynamic between him and Marmoush has gotten a little bit more coherent, where it's just right. You stay on the right half of the attacking third, you stay on the left half, and then we'll overlap in the center when the ball finds it.
I think in particular with this game, the goal for Egypt, Salah gets an assist. He does well in the play, but the goal is Imam Arouche, who certainly was not a pip to Salah's Gladys Knight. He was the straw that stirred the drink all game. He had a fantastic goal, had several plays to create chances for other guys.
Yeah.
Very nearly had another goal. He did have one very wayward shot that calling it a shot maybe is generous.
But when you score a goal,
on a good chance, less than 10 yards out from goal, if your shot goes out for a throw in, it's probably not.
It's not great. Yeah.
But he has, outside of like a 6-month stint with Midtjylland, has played in Egypt his entire career. He was phenomenal. I think it is, there are you can get into iffy territory when you take a very nationalist approach to building your national team. But their national teams, the fun of a tournament like this is you get to see what does football look like in all of these places.
Yeah.
And it is so much watered down when every team is just who are your 10 plus dudes who play in Europe and who can you fill in behind them with.
And that's where you also look and say, like, for someone like Ashur, like we're not as familiar with the Egyptian league, right? And like, and people who will come up against the US, like when Australia comes here, they won't be as familiar with Christian Roldan, right? But like the benefit that Christian Roldan has is that he starts in a very important role every single week and he's not rotated out. And you compare that to like a Yunus Musa. That's why Roldan's on the squad and Musa isn't, because if you're chasing that club, you're not going to get the minutes necessarily. So I think that domestic leagues inherently do have value to the national team because you kind of have an incentive based on the squad registration rules to actually build with important domestic players and at least some roles, right? And maybe you do have other players like, you know, your striker might be coming from somewhere else, but that's fine. Like, you know, I'm looking at Ali's roster right now. And they've got a couple guys from Morocco. They've got someone from Cape Verde. They've got, you know, like, but very majority of this squad is Egyptian. And so they are in a much better spot because they go very far in, you know, continental play. And then apparently the Club World Cup as well.
So the other topic I just wanted to touch on is heading into this tournament. There was obviously a lot of attention paid to the expansion of the field, 48 teams. And I don't want to pretend as if there's not going to be some knock-on effect down the road. The qualifying for the knockout round is clearly going to be impacted by this. But if you look at each individual game, I don't know that we've had a genuine dog yet.
No.
I mean, you could maybe argue that the Curacao Germany game got out of hand, but there was a good 30 minutes where that was a competitive, compelling game. Curacao gets the goal. There provides this wonderful moment for Curacao fans. And you can talk about Sweden destroying
Tunisia, but they've made past World Cups, right?
This is a team that's made much smaller fields.
Yeah.
You could talk about the United States beating on Paraguay, but Paraguay was always going to.
They were second in the region, right? Like, or third in the region, or whatever, right? Exactly. They were ahead of Brazil, most importantly.
Yeah, and so this has been, I think, a really compelling World Cup and here Uruguay just went final, and they tied with Saudi Arabia to reiterate the point, right? Yeah.
Like, I think that's another game that I would have looked at today and was like, right, that's probably like a 2-goal win. But Uruguay's
example being Cape Verde tying Spain 0-0.
Incredible.
Unbelievable
goalkeeper
result.
Crying on the field, like game of his life.
Yeah.
Like, you love a goalkeeper with one name, first of all. So that's just like a really good moment, right? They can be glamorous too. Like, it's really been Dita, and then there's been like this weird little break. And I guess you have your Allisons, your Edersons, but like, we do know what their last names are generally. So really good. Like, I think it has caught me off guard. And I think part of it is just the general level of, I guess, what you would have used to call in FIFA rest of world.
Yeah.
Like in the video game series, like they would always just get lumped in there. That quality has improved a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot more money going into that because of just the general interest of the sport, vis-a-vis the economy. There's also, again, Club World Cup, continental play, prize pools. It's marketable now. Some of these clubs can just go to mystery kits or whatever and say, hey, throw in 50 of these. And suddenly, you know, you've got like this growing and growing, right? Like, it's fun. It's good. And I think it does make something like the World Cup even more special. So I'm still concerned about how the round of 32 is going to go. I feel like that's going to be a real squirrely little bastard. But like, other than that, it could be fun.
There's also some conversation to be had about what the purpose of a World Cup is. And no one at this point is going to argue that the best soccer you're going to watch happens at a World Cup.
Totally.
There may be incredible games, but if you want to watch the best of the best, you are watching club soccer. That is where the best football happens.
You're watching Champions League.
Yes.
But even then, you're watching the Champions League knockout rounds, right? Because at this point, it's not even necessarily in the group stage. And it is great that there haven't been any just absolute dogs in any of these games. For all, there have been lopsided results. But going back to the Germany-Curacao game, Curacao ties it 1-1. And you could see how much it means to the fans, the players, to see that happen. The fact that Germany goes and scores 6 more because
there's Germany and their
Curacao played like Brazil.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, it doesn't matter that Germany scored another 6 goals because Curacao scored 1.
And I think you would ask any Curacao fan, would you rather have lost 1-0 or 6 or 7-1? They'd probably all rather lose 7-1 than 1-0.
So. Yeah, I think so.
It goes back a little bit to, the U.S. women's team against Thailand.
Yeah.
And the players from Thailand being asked after that game, there was all this discourse about the U.S. being disrespectful.
Were they mean?
And the response, player after player, was, no, they gave us their best shot. Like, it means a lot to get a global power's best shot in a game like that because it means they treated you with respect.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's vital. Like, that's where it's going to start to get worried. It's one thing when you have like a scoreless draw with Spain and Cape Verde, because that's earned, right? Yeah. But like, if that had finished 8-0 on merit, that's also earned, right? And you just don't want to see that thing where you've got, and we're going to see a ton of this in the third round of group games. I have no doubt. Like hey, if we both draw, like maybe the 45th minute, first cooling break, we look at the scoreboard and we're going to bring in our rotated sides and whatever. And it's going to be miserable, right? And that's going to be something FIFA would have to figure out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't happen. But
I mean, I think there's potential. A lot of, I think that's where this starts to get more stretched. Like,
yeah.
But for right now, for right now, I am confident through the first 2 rounds of the group stage that we're probably going to get mostly pretty good soccer.
Yep. I'd agree.
I don't know how this stacks up literally against previous tournaments, but it feels like there's been more open play scoring in this tournament than I remember in previous tournaments. And there's only been 1 penalty.
Good.
I think there's only been 1 or 2 own goals.
Yeah.
They're not and they're not ugly own goals.
Right. It's not Omar Gonzalez against Trinidad, right? Like
these are own goals where it's like the pressure was on, and if it wasn't scored by the defender, it was probably going to be scored by the attacker.
Totally.
And I think I've enjoyed this tournament a lot. I'm not going to sit here and say that all the criticism it got wasn't well placed and well earned.
Yeah.
But the reality is that somehow these stadiums are mostly full.
Yep, that's the part that surprises me.
That's been the most surprising. Like, even like the game that I thought was going to be the worst. Like, I really thought there might be only Laurel Bowl fans was Switzerland Qatar.
Yeah, sure.
And it's the lowest attended game so far. I think they announced it at 2/3 or 3/4 full. It was not that. Like, it had large swaths of empty seats, but there were way more fans than I expected there to be. The only game that really, and that one, and then the South Korea Czechia game were the only 2 games that had really visible empty swaths of seats.
Yeah.
And like today at Lumen Field, Seattle Stadium, they announced it at, like a couple hundred short of a sellout, and that was a credible number.
Yeah, I bought it at face value.
It certainly felt like it was close to full.
Yeah. I will be very curious to see some of the games at Levi Stadium /
Levi Stadium's got a tough draw.
And the worst,
tough draw.
And the thing is, that's a universal opinion now, right? It's one that's been written about by like the Chronicle out there, that they kind of got screwed over with how the draw broke their way and what was assigned to them. So I do worry that as you see some games like involving like Jordan or whatever, I wonder what kinds of crowds they'll draw. But beyond that, I'm with you, man. Like, and just to like the broader point you were raising, like, I think some of this was always inevitable. Everyone's favorite part of a World Cup is the World Cup of it. It's not the prelude. It's not the announcements. Like, we have had a weird amount of advanced public comment from a FIFA president coming into this tournament compared to most. Like, Sepp Blatter wasn't doing a road show necessarily trying to like get people really excited about his World Cups, right? They were the World Cup. They spoke for themselves. And so I think that if FIFA, they won't take this lesson, but if I could impart one lesson to them, it would just be like, just trust your tournament and stop looking so desperate, because all they did was give us a ton of material to work with. And like, I know that like within our newsroom at the Guardian, like it was just constant where it'd be like, that's ridiculous. Like, how do we not write about this? How do we not write about that? Right. Like, they just kept opening themselves up to it. And I just, I know there's no shame in society anymore in America, but like at a certain point, you've got to learn a lesson from that and rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, I think the reality is FIFA is not going to stop scoring own goals, but once the tournament kicks off,
It's unbelievable.
To both of your point, once games start happening, the tournament is about the game and the players and the fans.
Yeah.
And for all that there are still bad, terrible, shitty things happening, the games have been good and the fans have been great.
Yeah. And people want to watch. And I think that's one of the things that FIFA kind of gets, like, to, I guess maybe, I don't want to say to their credit, but they do sort of they understand that fans want this, and they kind of have it. They kind of have the ace card, which is like, we have this tournament that everyone thinks is important, and we're gonna play it. I don't like it. I don't love that, but I will say that I'm glad I was out here today. I am, I would say that if you can afford it, it's worth coming out here. And honestly, I think it's really worth coming down to Pioneer Square and just being around the game. Like I walked around after, and there were 2 hours after the game, there were a ton of people hanging out watching the Saudi Arabia Uruguay game. There was pickup games going on in Occidental Park. There were, vendors were still out. It's a great scene. I can't really recommend it high enough to just come out and experience what it's like to have a World Cup in your city, even if you don't go to a game. And I would say going to the game might legitimately be secondary to experiencing what this is all about.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Whether it is at one of the big fan zones, a watch party, or if you and some buddies go to a chain or your local spot,
whatever, man, let's just out it. Like yesterday, we watched a couple of games together too with Mark Kastner, and we had a great time, right? Like,
I don't know him.
Who? Like it was excellent though.
But I think, it is an opportunity to embrace this much larger community that we all are part of.
Yeah.
Whether you go by yourself or you go with friends, you can watch the World Cup at home, and that is totally fine, but it is a wildly different experience that is so much better and more meaningful to do it in community. And I think that's an important thing to do right now.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good note to end on. So why don't we get out of here? Thank you to Jeff. You can follow him on
Blue Sky.
What's your handle on Blue Sky?
Jeff Rueter. I'm not clever. .busky.social.
I'm not clever is not in the handle, just to be clever. Just to be clear.
That's just you can also read them at The Guardian.
That
The Guardian. In print too.
In print tomorrow. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be fun. That'll be good. I had to text one of my friends who was in the crowd because I could not see the sky. And I was like, are there even clouds out there? And he was like, yeah, they're high and hazy. So I'm like, I'm going to use that. So John Marthaler, thank you very much.
Look at that.
The high and hazy clouds will be in print tomorrow.
Nice.
If you haven't already bought yours or it hasn't arrived yet, you can also read Jeremiah and I in print.
That's right.
That's right. Now it's a little different since we put ourselves in print.
No, still print.
Okay, good. I'll take that.
I buy it. Let me say, like, the first issue of this was fantastic. I haven't gotten to read the World Cup one yet, but like the quality of writing and that the writers that you're able to pull for it really delivered on that first one. And I thought it was just a tremendous publication. I wrote for Howler magazine before it had stopped. And so I've always had an appreciation for these sort of kind of quarterly, like, magazine style. And I think that there's a serious scarcity of these in the landscape. So thank you for bringing those back genuinely.
Thank you.
And keep them up.
I'm going to take that compliment. I like that. So if you're listening to this and you don't have an issue of 4 yet, you should go out and get one.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Well,
get 5 of them.
Get 5 of them. Sure.
Yeah. The 4x5.
Like Tim. Well, with all that said, I'm going to get out of here. Signing off for Jeff and Tim, I am Jeremiah Oshan. This is No Zodiac, part of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, and we will catch you next time.
Let's go Sounders.